Welcome to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Brightman. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the podcast Rutgers men's soccer head coach Jim McElderry, following a very successful 2022 campaign, Big Ten tournament title, NCAA tournament appearance. Coach, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, Aaron, thanks for having me. Always happy to be on and talk about Rutgers men's soccer. So looking forward to the season and talking about it with you.
So first off, it's been a couple years now that you're kind of back on the normal off-season schedule following COVID. How is the regularity of the off-season now benefited the program in terms of your progress and development?
Yeah, I think the off season in college soccer is interesting because it really you almost look forward to your next season starting in February of that year. It's kind of an odd schedule. So we had a good spring season. A couple of transfers joined us in the spring, which is great, so that they can be here for a couple of months before the summer comes in. And then, most of the guys head off in the summer for a couple of months to play on summer league teams or go back home. Some travel to different places to play. But I think we had about 24 guys or so that came back about 3 weeks before preseason started to work with our strength coach and on the kind of voluntary basis to come back and kind of get together and start building some chemistry amongst themselves while working with our strength coach. So a dedicated group heading into this fall 2023 season.
And to touch on last season, specifically Indiana, you've had a lot of success against one of the best programs in the country. Obviously beating them in the Big Ten tournament game. They go all the way to the national championship. I guess how much does that build the confidence of your players, and how much does it help the program kind of be able to take that next step forward, knowing that you're able to play at that level at times, and now working to build consistency to continue to improve?
Yeah, it's funny. When I first took the job, when my first team meeting I had with the players, one of the things I asked them, who was the best the best team you played last year, the year before I got there, and unanimously they said Indiana. And I knew that, of course, that they're a great program with tons of history and staff and everything, but the players know it as well. So that's always been a standard that we're trying to match. So I have the utmost respect for those guys. They do an amazing job, and I think it's one of the reasons I wanted to come to the Big Ten, to play against teams like that on a consistent basis in meaningful games, not just at a conference games, but in games that mean things. So, we had a great game with them last year, and playing in the final was a special day for us, of course, and we will always have that in the memory bank for us. And winning our since I got here, our first conference championship is exciting. But also we have to find a way to kind of turn the page. I think our players are well aware that, we are one of the better teams in our conference. And after winning the conference tournament, teams are going to want to come after us the same way we wanted to go after Indiana when we first got here. So, but it was also exciting to watch Indiana reach the final, because they are a great program, and it made it even our conference championship even sweeter, that we played a team that ended up having another kind of extended season after that. So and it's certainly an exciting time for our conference, and I think our guys will take a lot of that belief into not only next season but everything going forward for themselves and for us as a program.
So obviously you did lose some key players from last year: Thomas DeVizio, MD Myers, Big Ten Player of the Year, Pablo Avila, great career for Rutgers, and Hugo as well. But you have a lot of key contributors back. You have a lot of juniors and seniors on the roster. How has that helped move things forward this offseason and set you up for even more success this coming year?
Yeah, we had a great group of seniors, those guys you mentioned, and Randy Aronis and OD, a bunch of guys that have moved on and graduated. But it's one of those things. You have a great season and a memorable season. Oftentimes it's because some of your older players played so well. And the nature of this is they kind of move on to the next stage of their life. Luckily for some of our guys, they're playing and getting a chance to play at the next level, which was one of our goals as well. Can we get players that want to have that ambition to play on, but also graduate? We have guys that earn their degrees and now have gone on to play and have a chance at making a living out of this game. So that's exciting. We'll miss them for sure. I miss them already in terms of seeing them every day. Great group of guys that have been with us since day one. But it's now opportunities for other players. We had a deep team last year, and some guys maybe didn't get some of the minutes that they really would like to have, but understood because we were having success. Now's their time to step up and fill some of those roles and get more time. You look at a guy like Ian Abbey, who had a great season for us last year. He came off the bench a lot, played a huge role in the success of our season, but wants more, of course. So now there's an opportunity for him to play more and to get more minutes and have even a bigger role. So, we're excited about some of our guys returning that now will get even more time and, can really, kind of carve their own little kind of niche into our program.
I think one thing that struck me with the roster is, you're also, not only do you have a lot of contributors back, but you're pretty balanced, at each position group in terms of the contributors you have back. You mentioned Ian Abbey, also Colin Beasley, Ola Mayland, Nico Rosamilia up front. Obviously, replacing Myers' production, 13 goals, is not an easy thing to do. Do you think that it's going to be more of a balanced kind of attack this year, or is there anyone in particular you think has the potential to step up and kind of be the number one scorer, so to speak?
Yeah, you said it. It's tough to replace 13 goals. If you look around the programs, all Division I programs last year, there aren't a ton of programs that have players with more than 13 goals. And not only that, he, involved a lot of players. He's an unselfish guy. We'll miss that part of his game too. And, made players around him better, which I think is always a big measuring stick for top players. But I think the latter, I think there's probably going to be more of a big group of players that have opportunities to score multiple goals, and hopefully by that we'll add up to more goals than 13. And like you said it, we've got some guys that contributed last year. We also have Jackson Temple coming back for his COVID year, which is again a guy who almost every season scores 5 or 6 goals. Consistently. So you look at that, and you look at Ian had some goals, and Ula always scores some goals, and someone like Nico Rosamilia, who was really unlucky with an injury last year, only played a handful of games, but we have high expectations for him, and then you always have new guys coming in. We have a guy, Lucci Sanchez, coming in, who we think a Philadelphia Union guy, but a New Jersey guy who we think has the potential to score goals and compete athletically, but also get into the right spots, and he's a tenacious guy. So, I think that big group of players, and someone like Jason Beregi and a Kurt Kaloff coming in as a transfer, these guys are all people who have scored goals already at the Division I level. It's not, something that we're hoping they're good. They've already proven it, that they've scored goals. So, that's exciting for us.
Yeah, so I was going to mention Jackson Temple and Jason Beregi, your 2 top assist guys from last year, and obviously dictate things from the midfield. You have you mentioned the transfer from Syracuse. You also have Cole Crothers, who had a great freshman year. Matthew Acosta back. How important is the midfield in terms of dictating how you control the pace and kind of dictate the pace of play? In both Big Ten, but all your competitions outside of the league as well.
Yeah, I think the middle midfield is really an incredibly strong point for us. Matt Acosta has played every game for us. I think he started every game since he arrived on campus. Cole Crothers, was the rookie of the year, co-rookie of the year in our conference last year. Those guys had amazing seasons, and you pair them with Jason in midfield and guys like Kurt who are new. It's incredibly competitive in there. We also have a guy like Nestor Cabrera, who was in and out of our lineup last year, but last summer was a difficult challenge for him. He kind of had a long season competing with the Guatemala national team. There was no time off, and I think he just ran out of steam a little bit. And having him here, seeing him play this summer with kind of outside of our whatever summer league type teams, he's just fitter and fresher, and looking forward to him getting in our team this year. So I think it's going to be a really strong group. And then we also have some new guys. Francesco DePonzio is an NYCFC midfielder who's played second team games. A lot of our new guys have played games with their pro teams, whether it's Lucci or Chesco. who have played games with their second team. So it's an exciting time. We also have a guy that's kind of new to our group, who you may know. He's a Red Bull 2 guy. Eric Ruiz is a guy who plays with Red Bull 2 right now, who's going to be joining us this fall as well. Someone who was trying to see if he could hang around and maybe get a professional contract, but he's an excellent student, had been admitted to the school, so he'll be joining us this fall as well.
And that's great news. In terms of the defense, Joey Zielinski is a guy you've gotten a lot out of the last 2 years. I know you're looking at him as kind of taking a step up in terms of leading the defense and being a team leader as well. You have Chris Talbach, you have Cole Selatek. How do you feel about the defense? Obviously, you're replacing 2 guys that were staples, including Divisio, there for so many years, and provided so much stability for you.
Yeah, it's really difficult to replace someone like Hugo and someone like Tommy, kind of 4-year starters. Tommy was there for a 5th year. Really difficult to replace them. They're both 23 years old. So, that's not easy, but those guys had great careers for us. And again, sorry to see them go and miss them a lot. But I think we've got some players that we feel can come in and maybe been waiting a little bit. Having Chris Teo come back is really helpful for his 5th year, because he had a really good season last year, especially at the end of the season where he was really, really flying. And I think he's going to have a great season for us. And Cole Sotek has played a ton of games for us. He's been bounced around a little bit in terms of position, but he always is a guy that plays for us. And as you mentioned, Joey is a huge part of what we're doing here, wherever he plays, but most likely as a center back. We also have a guy, Saab Kular. Saab was a guy who transferred to us, but credits-wise was ineligible to play for us in the fall, but he's trained with us for a whole year. So he's a guy that we expect played for us in the spring, but we expect him to come in and be an important person on our team at the back and a leader and kind of an aerial presence. And then you have a couple of other guys that are pushing for time. And then we have an incoming freshman, Nick Collins, who had a great high school and club career, who's an out-and-out center back who we expect to compete for time in there too. So I think there's some new faces on our back line, and how that really kind of evolves will be fun to see. It's something that we've got to put some time in to kind of keep building relationships. But having Joey and Chris and Saab here all spring playing together was helpful. And as I mentioned earlier, Sawyer Koza is a transfer who was from Temple, was here all spring for us, and he's another guy that brings kind of another option as an outside back there for us. So we think we've got a lot of people competing and fighting there that can bring something that we lost with the graduating guys.
So last year in goal, Kieran Dalton was kind of thrown into the fire a little bit with Oren Asher's injury. Had a tremendous year, really helped you guys have so much success, was all Big Ten freshman. And then you also have Ari Briscoe, who has a lot of international experience and stepped in at times. How key is it to have 2 guys that both have experience and kind of can push each other to get to that next level?
Yeah, I've said this all last year during our season. I really thought we had a group of 3 goalkeepers that were really an excellent group of players. We lost one. Dylan was our 3rd string goalkeeper. He transferred to Loyola, just more opportunity to play down in Maryland. And then we brought Andrew Noel in, who was at Pitt for 2 years. So I think he's going to be a great addition to our kind of roster of goalkeepers. But we're very lucky for the 2 guys that were on the team last year. Kieran and Ari kind of split time early on in the season, and eventually we just thought that Kieran was in the best kind of groove at the time and for the team that was playing in front of him, and he really took advantage of those opportunities and had an excellent season. But we're really lucky. Ari had a great summer with the USL2 team out in Indianapolis and had an excellent season. Their team was good. Kieran also had a good summer with the USL2 team. So we're really, really lucky, and competition is always good. And, we get these guys into camp, see how they're both playing health-wise. And, eventually you just make the decision that's best for the team. That's ultimately what it's all about. I always tell the guys that, hey, the guys who play, it's nothing about who's older or younger or anything like that. For me, it's what's the best situation for the team. And last year it was Kieran for that second half of the season. And again, he's had a great summer, as has Ari. So I expect those guys to really compete well this kind of preseason and beginning of season, and we see where it goes.
And I guess, how do you look at it in terms of perspective for yourself? Being at Rutgers now a few years, the way you've been able to build the talent level, the depth level, and obviously there's a certain step you have to take, right? From being, taking over a program, rebuilding the culture, improving the roster, moving up the Big Ten the way you have. I guess, what is key for you now in terms of the team and the program taking that next step? Being a perennial NCAA tournament team and competing for Big Ten championships year after year.
Yeah, you said it. I think it's tough. You look around our conference, not just at Rutgers, but across the conference. It's just so difficult to kind of get across the line, whether it's a regular season championship or a tournament championship. It's just so challenging because there's so many good programs, and a lot of teams can get close, and it's just so tough to get over. So really proud of our group last year, being able to kind of get over the hump of we finished second in the league kind of throughout the season, and then win the conference tournament championship. We have a confident group of guys, but I think winning those tight, important matches really does make a difference in terms of their psyche a little bit. And as they look forward, it's not just hoping that you can win it, or dreaming about it. It's like, hey, we've accomplished that. What can we do next? So I think our guys are hungry for more. Like you said, you graduate, so it's a whole different team. You keep your program together, your culture, your kind of style of play, but now you've got different faces in there. And I always tell our guys the responsibility they have is to add to the history of our program. There's a long history of Rutgers soccer program, and the 2022 team did that, right? Whoever was on that roster for 2022, and I even think of the guys prior to that helped us kind of get back there from maybe where we were, are all part of that. And now this team, 2023, has a responsibility. What can we do? What can we, get the full potential of our group, but also can we add to the history of our program? So, we'll just get back to work in preseason, kind of figure out exactly where we are in terms of the dynamic of our group. But we feel like we've got a really strong group of, experienced guys who take the game incredibly seriously, have worked really hard over the summer. I'm really looking forward to having, the team contact with them a lot. You kind of see guys are coming and going in your office saying hello and popping in, but it's not the same as kind of showing up and being on the field with them every day and kind of not only just the soccer side of it, but hearing what they have going on and the academic side, of course. So I'm really looking forward to having that more day-to-day contact with our guys and watching them kind of come together as a group and have some guys fill those roles, as you mentioned, that are left from guys graduating.
Just a few more for you, Coach. Wanted to ask about the non-conference schedule. Obviously, the Big Ten is always super competitive. You're playing Princeton, your rival, in-state rival, once again. You added St. John's, which I'm happy about, the old Big East rivalry, and very good program traditionally. And then you're going out to UCLA. So was that a home and home from last year?
Yeah. It's scheduling is tough. Honestly, I hate scheduling. It's just so challenging between how much class time you don't want these guys missing and traveling and getting ready for your conference games. It's really difficult. As we know, the season is too short. The games are too close together. That frustrates me, but that's for another podcast. That's at some time that we can extend this season a little bit longer for the health of our players and give them more rest and really be able to recover in the modern game. It's just so challenging. So, trying to get some local games, try to get on the road a little bit, being on the road, playing at Delaware, playing at Northeastern, just to challenge our guys a little bit differently, to get on the road and play in some different environments. Going out to UCLA, as you said, it was a home and home with them from last year. They're an excellent program. I think they'll be one of the top teams in the country this year. They've got a lot of talent. But it's soon to be a yearly thing. So we're excited to get out there. We're kind of the first Rutgers team to kind of head out there since this was announced that they'll be joining our conference. So head out there and do some alumni stuff out there as well. And so I'm excited for that. And as you said, St. John's, Coach Mazer is one of the legendary players at Rutgers, and I've known him since I've probably been 22 years old. So a long time, and his teams are always incredibly tough to play against and talented as well. And he recruits really well, as you know. So that game will be a real challenge for us. But for both of us, it'll be early in the season, which sometimes I think is good because we can learn a little bit about our teams against good opponents. And then we both get into our challenging conference schedules.
A quick follow-up on the schedule, just thinking about the Big Ten, expanding obviously with UCLA and USC. Is there any indication or anything you can say in terms of will there be, are you able to, when you add those conference games, are you going to have to cut down on the non-conference, or are you going to be able to add, will there be an extension, a week or so or two of the season, or how's that all going to work?
Yeah, those are all the ongoing talks right now, Aaron, because it's trying to fit all these games in. You're adding a travel, UCLA with the most travel, of course, right? They're the ones traveling. We have one trip new that's out there, maybe, every other year type thing. So it's not a huge thing for us. I think eventually if UCLA is traveling to every, home and away, just like we all do now, I think we have to have all our games on the weekends. We're probably going to have to move away from conference midweek games because it's going to be challenging for UCLA to fly out to, I don't know, Ohio State for a Tuesday night game, right? It's right. Just too much. Either you got to tag them on a Friday and Monday or something like that, or so there's some scheduling things that we've got to work out. And like you said, it gets really difficult because our season is so compact, and we're trying to. You look at the women's conference; they have a lot more teams in the conference, so it's like, and they're adding 2 teams, with UCLA and USC. So there's a lot of questions. I don't think the men and women will be on the same kind of schedules or same, because it's just impossible because there's so many different variables in there. But I think that's a big question for us. It's got to be solved pretty soon because we got to start working on our 2024 schedule, non-conference stuff. So it's crazy times for us, Aaron, with all the conference stuff, and but exciting at the same time. So, adding a team like UCLA ultimately is just a great thing for our conference. We'll work out the logistics as we go forward.
Yeah, as we're talking, I mean, of all the sports that the Big Ten is adding UCLA, and I mean, adding them in men's soccer is really such a high-profile thing to go along with all the other great teams in your conference. That's really exciting. 2 questions for you before we end. Wanted to ask, just in terms, I know you've gotten a lot of support from Alexi and Lalas over the years, and obviously having him and Carli Lloyd right now, kind of front and center with the Fox's coverage for the World Cup. How much do you hear about that in terms of people recognizing that they're from Rutgers? I was actually listening to Alexi in a Spaces he did on Twitter, and there was Judah Friedlander's a comedian, and he was like, "Oh, you played at Rutgers, right?" And it was pretty cool that that people do recognize him as a Rutgers guy. Obviously, Carli Lloyd, an all-time great in women's soccer, but I guess, do you feel like that adds value to the program, to both men's and women's, and how much do you kind of feel that as the head coach?
Yeah, I think it 100%, helps our kind of profile of our programs. It's funny, you not only are they Rutgers grads and on TV, but, Lexi played in a couple of World Cups, was a top player. Carli was the player of the year in the world, so it's not just, hey, they played at Rutgers and they kind of had maybe a little bit of a career or something. Both of them are hugely recognized in the game. And again, even Carli, only graduating, not graduating, excuse me, only retiring, a couple of years ago. She's really front and center. And now with the Women's World Cup, obviously her opinions carry a lot of weight, and she has opinions on the game, as she should, because she spent a ton of her kind of almost real professional career is really the national team in her days, right? Like she, in those days, the women's top players, the national team was almost like their club team. They played so many games for the national team. So it's good to hear her thoughts on it. I know both are opinionated. Not everybody agrees with them, but that's what makes them good pundits, is that you get opinions, get people talking. And even right now with the women's team kind of tie in their last, group stage game and getting on to the next round. There's a lot of people opinions on their style of play and not scoring enough goals, but I think that's all good stuff. You need people critiquing the game, and that means there's a lot of interest. So it's good. But We do feel it. It's exciting for us to have two Rutgers kind of legends front and center on the national stage or the international stage. So it's fun, and we certainly hear a lot about it. So it's great.
Yeah, and just to date myself for a second, I used to go see Alexi play for Rutgers when I was not even almost a teenager. So I certainly remember those days, and yeah, seeing him on the national team. But it's really cool to see them front and center and represent Rutgers so well. Last question for you. Obviously, wanting to build off of last season, having that success, first NCAA tournament bid in 7 years, you breaking through now at Rutgers after a great success at Fordham. What does this specific team need to do to continue to have success and to get back, challenging for a Big Ten title and making the NCAA tournament hopefully once again?
Yeah, I think last year was an exciting time for our program. As you mentioned, it was my fourth season, and though we made some really good strides in those first 3 years, you're excited to kind of break through and be in the NCAA tournament, because ultimately that's really exciting. Winning the conference championship was a really special day and something our guys will remember forever. And you put a trophy in the case, and that's great. But I think our standard, our program is, can we be in the NCAA tournament every year? I think that's something that we talk about. We're not afraid of it. I know it's not easy, and there's a lot of different variables that make that happen. And sometimes it's not a perfect kind of scenario to make all those things kind of go with RPI and all these things. There's just so many things that can have a say in the end of your season and being successful. But I think our guys understand how much fun it was at the end of the season playing an important game. So they see the journey that you have to go on. You don't make the NCAA tournament or win the conference championship in preseason or the first weekend or the second weekend. It really is for a short season, it is a long journey, and I think our guys understand, get to preseason, get to work. The deeper our squad is, the better chance we have of being successful. Our depth last year helped us immensely during the season. Guys stepped up and scored goals off the bench. So I think there's a real understanding of, hey, put your head down, get to work, and see if we can kind of reach our full potential. And I think most of our players understand, if we can reach our full potential, which is ultimately in my job, can we get our team to reach their full potential? We have a lot of talent on our team. We've got guys who can play. They want to play the style that I like to play. And I think we have enough talent to win games, not just kind of not lose them. So I think, they understand that. And winning last year really does help, but they also do understand it's a new season. But I couldn't be more excited for it. We've got a young, kind of lively group. And, I think it's tough to replace veterans, but also when you've got a lot of kind of young guys that are hungry to get on the field and a couple of new faces that haven't been in our program at all that have, played at a really high level, in terms of playing, MLS Next Pro kind of games, and it's an exciting time, and really looking forward to it. And I think the sky's the limit for this group.
Rutgers men's soccer head coach Jim McElderry, really appreciate your time. It's always fun to talk to you, and you've done a great job rebuilding the program. And congratulations on last year's success, and really looking forward to following you once again this season.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Look forward to seeing you out at your second.
Absolutely.